The Secret Library Clue: How a Librarian Foiled a German Bomb Plot in World War I America. The year is 1916. America is neutral, but a shadowy German spy plots catastrophic explosions on U.S. soil. Millions of dollars, countless lives at stake. Over 40 elite detectives are stumped. But the key to stopping him? It rested on a library shelf, discovered by a red-headed librarian who hated men until she met a secret agent. This is the incredible true story of the clue on Shelf 45. The Hidden War. While America remained neutral in 1916, a shadow war was already being waged on U.S. soil. Germany, desperate to curb Allied power, launched a campaign of sabotage. Their goal? Cripple the burgeoning munitions industry that supplied the Allied forces. The stakes were immense: millions of dollars in property and countless innocent lives. The mastermind behind these insidious plots was a ghost known only as Number 859, or von Ewald. The Secret Service's frustration: hunting a ghost. From early 1916, the Secret Service knew von Ewald was operating in New York. They'd extracted confessions from other plotters like Harry Newton and Paul Seib, confirming von Ewald as their paymaster and commander. But identifying him was a monumental task, unlike any counterfeiting or smuggling case. Time was of the essence. The order from headquarters was urgent: get the man known as von Ewald and get him quick. Dozens of agents from the Secret Service, postal inspectors, Department of Justice were pulled from across the country and descended on New York. Seasoned veterans like Grogan, McMasters, Shields, and Outhouse, fluent in German, were all on the hunt. Over 40 men combed the city, particularly suspected hideouts in Greenwich Village. Yet von Ewald remained elusive. False alarms were rampant, leading agents on wild goose chases across the city almost nightly. By April, many agents had become cynical, viewing von Ewald as a mere myth, a bugaboo. Dick Walters enters the fray. New hope, new frustration. It was in April that Dick Walters returned to the East Coast from a year-long opium hunt. His instructions were no different from the rest: find von Ewald. Dick, like every new agent on the case, initially believed he could succeed where others had failed. But weeks of the fruitless, nerve-wracking chase after a man with no description, a man that nobody knew, began to wear him down. The unexpected connection. Dick and Mary. Cupid strikes. Then one evening, Dick wandered into the public library just before closing. He instantly fell for Mary McNillis, a striking red-headed, blue-eyed Irish beauty peppered with freckles. Mary was, however, notoriously aloof, preferring books to any male company. Dick's persistence was remarkable. Every evening at 7, he'd be at her desk, crafting almost intelligent questions about books just to prolong their conversation. Slowly, imperceptibly, a bond of friendship grew. Perhaps it was his Irish heritage or his genuine respect for her that Mary began to soften. Within a month, he was taking her home. 6 weeks in, they were inseparable pals, exploring quaint restaurants. Mary, observant as she was, quickly sensed Dick was on a serious, secret assignment, constantly preoccupied. When she finally asked him directly, Dick confessed he couldn't tell her yet, but promised it was nothing that you would be ashamed of, something that will make you mighty proud. Mary, trusting him implicitly, agreed to wait. The Black Tom catastrophe. The plot escalates. Early August brought a horrifying escalation: the Black Tom explosion. A massive detonation in Jersey City rocked the earth, causing an estimated $30 million in damage to munitions facilities. The Secret Service had received a vague tip, but no one had anticipated such a devastating attack so close to New York. Dick, like dozens of other agents, rushed to the scene. They found unexploded bombs, devilishly clever with a new chemical combination, but no trace of their maker, no clue to their origin. 4 nights later, a very tired and disgusted Dick finally returned to the library. Mary, sensing his exhaustion, offered comfort. In a cozy restaurant, Dick, throwing caution to the wind, confessed everything: his identity as a Secret Service agent, his 8 years of service, and his profound frustration at failing to apprehend the elusive German spy. He then proposed marriage. Mary's brilliant deduction: the clue on Shelf 45.
As they spoke, Mary, now privy to the mission's details, began to connect seemingly unrelated observations. She muzzed. The man who made them, the bombs, must have had a pretty thorough knowledge of chemistry. She continued with growing excitement. And the bomb maker would continue to investigate the subject. He would want to get the latest information, the most recent books. Dick was skeptical, but Mary leaned in to share her secret. She had long observed the regulars at the library. For months, a particular man had frequently visited the reference room to consult books from shelf 45. Mary, naturally observant, noticed a peculiar physical trait, each of his ears being practically lobeless. One of them was quite pointed at the top, almost like a fox's ear. Then, a month ago, a different man came in asking for a book from shelf 45. While his general appearance was entirely different, Mary had a shock. Neither of his ears had any lobes to speak of, and the top of them was pointed. She concluded they were the same man in disguise. The critical connection. The last time this man came to the library was 2 days before the night you failed to arrive, 2 days before the explosion. And the bombshell. Do you know what books are kept on shelf 45? The latest works on the chemistry of explosives.
The trap is laid. Dick shot up, his weariness replaced by a surge of hope. "Mary," he whispered, "I have a hunch that you succeeded where all the rest of us fell down." Mary remembered the man had asked for Professor Stevens's new book on chemistry, which was due to arrive shortly. "So, unless you men have scared him off, he'll be back in a day or two, possibly in a new disguise," she surmised. Her ingenious plan, Dick, was to get a temporary job as an attendant in the reference room. Mary would tip him off the instant she spotted that unchangeable, pointed ear. The very next morning, a new, inconspicuous employee appeared in the reference room, Dick Walters. He spent 3 tense days lounging near the information desk, wondering if this extraordinary clue would, like all the others, vanish into thin air. The spy's capture. Around 5 o'clock on the third afternoon, the man finally strolled up to Mary's desk and asked if Professor Stevens's book had come in. The book was indeed on shelf 45. Mary, feigning to check, left the room, discreetly arranging her hair at the back of her neck with her left hand, the prearranged signal for Dick. Before she returned, Dick, now in his usual Secret Service attire, was already positioned by the only entrance to the reference room, subtly watching the suspect. The German, seemingly unaware, left the library and took a bus uptown, disappearing into an apartment house on 83rd Street. Dick followed closely, signaling to 4 backup agents who had been waiting outside the library. He ordered 2 to guard the rear and 2 to stay in front, declaring, "I'm going to make this haul myself. No matter what occurs, don't let him get away. Shoot first and ask questions afterward." On the 3rd floor landing, Dick paused, then rang the bell on the 4th floor. After a 3rd ring, the door slowly swung inward, revealing a dark hall. Inside, the door bolted shut, and a spotlight blinded him. A guttural voice demanded, "What do you want?" Dick, maintaining his cover, asked for a Simpson. Then he shrewdly insinuated, "You're as mysterious as if you were running a bomb factory or something." The German swore, lunged for his hip, but Dick was faster, subduing him in a half Nelson. As he called for help, glass crashed at the rear, signaling agents coming via the fire escape. Moments later, the other operatives were at the door, guns drawn. Von Ewald, alone and outnumbered, meekly submitted. Conclusion. Mary's legacy. The apartment search revealed a box of bombs identical to those from Black Tom. Papers in his desk contained detailed plans for the Namers plant in Wilmington, complete with marked bomb locations. This was indeed number 859, the elusive Von Ewald. Though his associates were never traced, his capture was the critical reason that more German plots didn't succeed. The Black Tom explosion was, thankfully, the last major catastrophe of its kind in America. The Treasury Department, recognizing Mary's extraordinary contribution, sent her a handsome chest of silver on the morning of her wedding to Dick Walters. The platter was engraved with a powerful tribute to Miss Mary McNillis, whose cleverness and keen perception saved property valued at millions of dollars. Her quick thinking and sharp Irish eyes, a true testament to Cupid scoring over Mars, had foiled a plot that could have drastically hampered the United States' war effort.